Hand of Fate is one of those games that doesn't fit neatly into one genre. It's a mix of a card game, a dungeon crawler, strategy, exploration, and third-person combat. The game pits you against the card master, for lack of a better title, and his cadre of boss characters that he keeps neatly tucked away inside a cabinet. Each quest to defeat a boss presents itself as its own small independent game, as equipment and progression does not carry on to the next game. Each game will send you on a path that will be littered with random encounters from traveling merchants to skirmishes and chance encounters with NPCs. These paths can be somewhat modified by the player by injecting specific cards into the game decks, and you will unlock more of these cards as you progress through the game and defeat each boss. These cards also run the gamut from equipment to encounters with creatures and NPCs. Some cards also present the player with choices, such as do you want to risk climbing down a steep cliff to recover a sword you spotted, risking injury, or would you prefer to take the safe route and ignore it? These choices factor into the gameplay as you have limited health and food resources that you must juggle along your journey. Early on the going is a bit easier, but as you progress to the harder challenges, it becomes more of a strategic decision. The combat encounters are presented in third person and have a decent selection of settings that you will be doing battle in. The combat works fairly well, and it's a simple block or dodge on cue combat system that works fairly well and is easy to manage. My only real complaint about the game does lay in the combat system, however, as a few times the camera has moved into awkward positions on me, making maneuvering a bit of a pain, but these camera blips are usually rare and don't last very long. Fights against the bosses themselves are mostly interesting as each boss brings his own combat style niche to the game, such as a skeleton boss that can keep raising the dead around him until he's defeated. The cardmaster himself is well voiced and has some subtle but nice animations, such as laying out the decks and tossing you tokens from his jar on the table. Small things, but it's nice to see this indie game didn't overlook them, although I would have liked to have seen a slightly larger selection in his dialogue, as I did hear a few comments a few times too often. I really enjoyed the game's ability to allow me to inject my own cards into the mix before each game. It adds an extra layer of depth and strategy and also gives me a chance to add in encounters that I enjoyed or remove some of the ones that I don't. If you want to skip this, and you shouldn't, you can use recommended decks for each game, however. Overall, Hand of Fate is a fun little game that shows just how terrific the indie scene is, and that when it comes to fun, the little guys can rival the big boys any day. I'm giving Hand of Fate an 8 out of 10.